Good morning, everyone. The theory behind the 3-year lectionary cycle of years A, B and C is that we focus on a particular gospel every year, and year B is the Gospel of Mark. However, the Church of England has made a slight adjustment to the Common Lectionary, and on one Sunday in Epiphany we always read this portion from John, no matter what year we're in. This is the story of the wedding at Cana. The season of the Epiphany is about the revealing, the manifestation, the epiphanos of Jesus as Son of God, as Son of Man, as Saviour of the world. And John is very clear in his narrative that this incident at Cana is the first of a series of signs that reveal Jesus as who he is and cause his disciples to believe in him. This sign appears during the normal course of life. It happens at a wedding. Weddings are still relatively common. Points of celebration for people getting together are still things that we do. I don't think there's anything unusual in the fact that this is a wedding. It's just one of those social events that would have been going on. It makes me think of the passage in one of the synoptic gospels where Jesus is talking about the coming of the Son of Man. And he says, as it was in Noah's day, people were getting married and being given in marriage right up until the point when Noah went into the ark. Well, social celebrations and marriage are just things that happen. They're going on all the time. And this sign comes into the world and appears during a very normal human activity. And the way the miracle comes about after the wine has run out is very interesting. Jesus tells the servants to fill the jars with water, which is a commonly available material. And these jars are there because they are part of the standard purification ceremonies within Judaism at the time. So Jesus takes this very basic part of human life, water, which is absolutely necessary to human life, puts them in jars which are part of a symbolic and religious structure which already exists, and transforms them. And after transforming them, or rather, as part of the process of transformation, shall we say, the product of those jars, what is now wine, is given to somebody who does not know where it comes from. The wine is taken to the it's often called the ruler of the marriage. This would have probably been the person who was the head person in the synagogue, and therefore had some sort of presiding role over making sure that the marriage and the festivities happened. And he doesn't know where this wine has come from. And he then congratulates the bridegroom, who seemingly doesn't know where it's come from either. And whilst there's a suggestion that the servants might know that it's come from these jars that they prepared with water, it's not 100% clear that they realise what's happened to it either. They probably thought that they were going to get into a lot of trouble now by serving a glass, or rather a mug or a goblet of water to the head of the synagogue. So this sign that helps Jesus' disciples recognize who he is, happens in this very normal place, using the ordinary material of life and the structures, if you like, the jars that represent the social and religious structures of the time, and are transformed and are given to people who do not know what has happened. In the authorised 1611 version of the Bible, in verse 11, it says that this first miracle was one in which Jesus manifested forth his glory. And as a result, his disciples believed in him. It doesn't actually say when they believed in him, whether it was an immediate thing or sometime later. There's a suggestion later in John's Gospel that Jesus' full identity only becomes known to them later, long after the resurrection. I mean, there are passages in which the disciples, particularly Thomas and Philip, display a lack of understanding. So it's probable that this believing happened as a result of later reflection. So we have a miracle that reveals God's glory during the ordinary course of human lives, that uses as its base material water, which is fundamental for human life, and stone jars which have religious significance, existing religious significance, and whose consequences are for the benefit of people who do not understand, or probably don't even know, what has happened. And this glory isn't revealed automatically. It's revealed by time, by reflection, by remembering. And I'm quite glad about that. I'm glad that for somebody like me, who is not always the quickest on the uptake, but needs a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of decades to understand what has gone on, I'm glad that we are also beneficiaries of the generosity of God. Some of you might recall a few weeks back that Andy quoted a poem by John Hegley. There is another poem by the same performer called The Stand-Up Comic Sits Down. The bulk of the poem is a description of how the stand-up comedian came up with fantastic put-downs to deal with hecklers in a performance. But the punchline at the end of the poem is that, unfortunately, he thought about these in the bus on the way home. God is far more forgiving and generous than your average stand-up comedy night audience. He will allow his glory to be revealed slowly and over time, and through reflection and through remembering. That is good news.